Today we're here to talk about recognition in a lean environment, and obviously that can help you with the subject of work retention. And I'm going to introduce people just sort of one at a time because we've got a number of people, and the schedule says 7 minutes each, folks. Hopefully if somebody else has covered something, we'll just go on to the next point that people have. And then we're going to leave time for at least 10 to 15 minutes of questions and answers, where you can ask questions or pursue whatever you would like to there. Our first person is Curtis Carlson from Charter Communications, who's right next to me. He's going to show a DVD, I believe. He's been 20 years of professional experience, over a decade in senior leadership. He's currently Director of Operations at Charter Communications, which is a 400-employee call center in Walker, Michigan, right by us. We're in Walker as well, Irwin Seating Company. Well, I didn't tell you who I am. I'm Win Irwin, CEO of Irwin Seating Company, but also chair of the Workforce Development Board, Michigan Works Workforce Development Board of Kent and Allegan counties, which is kind of an interesting thing. So that's kind of why I'm here. Kurt is frequently cited for best practices in leading and motivating employees. In 1999, he and his staff were featured in a training video that's probably what you're going to show us, good, that highlighted his creative approach to recognize employees. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kurt.
Great. Thank you, Win. Did you need me to talk into this? Or? Okay. Good morning. As Win mentioned, my name is Kurt Carlson, and currently I'm the Director of Operations for the Charter Communications Call Center in Walker, Michigan. And Charter is a technology company. We're a cable company that's also branched into high-speed internet and telephone. And despite it being a technology company, it's people that make businesses work. So whether you are in a manufacturing environment, which I've been in before, or in a technology environment, I think we all recognize it's people that make businesses go around. And so that's what I've strived to focus on throughout my career, is remembering that it's the employees that you need to recognize. And what I wanted to share today is there's a book by some authors called Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner that was called The Leadership Challenge. And they wrote this book in the early 90s, and what they did is they did detailed interviews with people from all different industries as well as different practices, and asked them, what is it about your supervisor or formal leaders or informal leaders that has you command respect from, that they command respect from you, that you feel inspired, you feel motivated? And they distilled all this into 5 practices. They identified 5 practices. They were able to simplify it that succinctly. The one I'm going to talk about today is called Encouraging the Heart. And there's 2 key components to it, which is making sure that you celebrate milestones and celebrate victories. Don't wait till the end of a project, that you continually celebrate milestones along the way. And the second aspect is to personalize the recognition, making sure that you understand what's unique about the employees that you're working with. And it doesn't have to cost money. It can be something very, very simple, like writing a thank you note. And when they were preparing to release the second edition of their book, they went out and decided to create a training video. And at the time I worked at Consumers Energy, and there were several supervisors at Consumers Energy, including myself, would become credentialed in leading their coursework, and so they decided to feature us in their training video. And so I was going to share one little snippet from it. We have it's actually a 20-minute video. I'm just going to show a 2-minute clip that includes me. Again, this was when I was in my early 30s, so my hair's a little darker, and I don't have glasses at the time, but
just a couple of years ago.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it was last week.
I don't have a lot of sympathy.
So, Christy, if you'd be so kind.
I don't think I'll watch this.
Whoops.
Storytelling
We need to jump ahead one more.
teaching other people the expectations and providing them with an example of a peer who lived up to the standards, and then making that story. We have to personalize recognition to the individual, to the employee, because we want them to know they individually are special.
What you're doing is you're telling them they're important. They're not ignored. What they're doing makes a difference. The more you know people, the easier it is. Actually, the easier it is to be able to personalize your attention to them and your recognition of them.
You absolutely need to know what are the drivers, what are the hot buttons for the employees that you're trying to motivate. I do things for my staff that encourage what they like. An example is for the team that spent countless hours doing this project, what I do is I send them away for a weekend. Other people don't like that recognition. They would rather be recognized in a different way, more of a public way.
One way that effective managers personalize recognition is by tailoring the acknowledgement to the achievement.
We developed an online database, so we created a really long name for this system. It was the Customer Retailer Inquiry Concern Knowledge Electronic Tracking System, which is crickets.
And I wanted to thank you because of all the hard work you did. We know how long you got some days. We went backwards, forwards, and upside down, but...
Basically, it was the design and development team who had launched the system that we chose to give the paperweights to. Just sort of a sign of affection that we appreciated the work that they had done.
Personalized gifts are wonderful, but extravagance is not necessary.
One thing that I would say about recognition is that, number one, it needs to be sincere, but two, keeping it simple is very important. I found that even the smallest of thank yous to individuals go a long way.
The other piece, of course, about making it personal is it's you. You, the leader, are involved in this act. It's not about delegated recognition. It's about personal recognition. And you don't have to be spending a whole bunch of time trying to figure out, well, what am I going to say? You just say what you would normally say because it's personal. It's easier when it's personal. It's harder when it's not. Celebrating can be both formal and informal. It can be both a large company event.
So that training video was actually produced by a company called CRM Learning, and so if you're interested in that video, they're the producers of it. It's crmlearning.com is their website, and we're already at the third edition now of the Leadership Challenge, which also you can find at leadershipchallenge.com. It's probably one of the best course materials I've found in terms of having workbooks and simple tools that can help you in terms of remembering how to keep it simple and recognize your employees in an environment where you really don't have much money, but you know that it's people who make the business work. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kurt. Moving on to Tony Sanders is from X-Rite. He's Director of Human Resources. He's been with X-Rite for more than 10 years. X-Rite is a $250 million publicly traded global leader in color measurement and color management. It's very technical. I've walked through. He has over 20 years of HR experience, 6 years in marketing, and 8 years in manufacturing management. He's been involved in 2 new plant startups, a number of acquisitions, and the organizational transitions that accompany an acquisition. Tony?
All right. Thank you, Wynn, and thanks, everyone, for coming here this morning. What I'd like to do is just spend a couple minutes and talk about how our retention programs lead into our reward systems. One of the, I think, and our employees tell us this, the number one retention tool that I think that we have at X-Rite, and then it leads into another program, and that is when I first came to X-Rite, our employees, not only did they get their vacation days, but they also got 8 personal days and 4 sick days for a total of 12 days. And when I first went there, I remember a first-line supervisor coming to me and said, "We need an attendance policy." I said, "Well, you're coming to the wrong guy if you want an attendance policy. First of all, no one would ever be able to keep track of the point system that you would develop. But if you want to manage performance, I'll help you manage performance." Well, that then led to a program. The Vice President of Operations and myself, we developed a program called My Time. So those 12 days that they had were use it or lose it mentality. And so most everyone took those days. So what we decided to do, X-Rite was light on their holiday schedule. So we increased the holiday schedule by 3 days, actually. And so we now have 12 holidays. But we took the other 9 days and said, okay, we're going to give you 5 days at the beginning of the year, those personal days. They'll be yours. So no longer do you have to tell us you're sick. If you want to go to an event in the afternoon, if you want to go to the ballet for your daughter, or you want to go to a soccer game or whatever, you've got 5 days throughout the year. And for every quarter that you have perfect attendance, we'll give you an additional day, okay? So you can pick up 4 more for the year. But if you use a My Time day, you can't earn another day. And what we do at the end of the year, any combination of those 9 days that you have left over, we put into your 401k account, okay? And so that's what we do. And then those days now has led to a perfect attendance policy, or perfect attendance that we have. In 2006, of the direct labor force that we have, which is about 100 employees, we had 30 employees who had perfect attendance, okay? And what we do with the perfect attendance program now, not in the first year, but in your second year, if you have perfect attendance, we give you $50. If you have another year, you get $100, and it keeps moving up. And this year we had someone who had 7 years of perfect attendance. So not only did they get 9 days rolled over into their 401k, they also got paid, $350. So that's a very popular program with us, but really one of the key programs that really allows us to retain employees at X-Rate is our scheduling that we do. We truly have a flex schedule. We allow employees, depending on their lifestyle, to either work 5/8 or 4/10s. And we allow them to, their core hours, really 8 in the morning to 1:30 in the afternoon. So if one day you want to come in at 6 a.m. in the morning, you can. If the next day you want to come in at 7:59 in the morning, depending upon your family schedules, you can do that. So that's a program that really supports various lifestyles for our employee. And then when we do performance reviews, the employees have a feedback mechanism that they can give us, and they'll tell us that that's the number one item that keeps them at X-Rate because of the schedule. They can't get that everywhere. So that's a good program. And then in terms of celebration, we actually made celebration one of our 10 principles that we do. And we do a quarter. If we have a quarter where we have broken a record, we will have an entire employee celebration. We started out with hamburgers and hot dogs, and then you move up. If you really do well, you get into steak, and then all the first level supervisors and so forth, provide, the cooking and so forth. So that's been a real good program for us. And we were talking earlier, about service awards. We continue to do service awards. We have a luncheon for our 5, 10, 15, 20-year employees. And then beyond that, the president, CEO, sends out a card with a handwritten note to every employee. It must take him hours to do those cards, but he does them personally. And then also the first-level supervisors, I think from a recognition standpoint, what they do for their employees, we allow them to have $5 per employee per month. And so what they do, if they have $100 that month and somebody does something nice, contribution, what they'll do is they may go to Meijer and get a gas card for $30, okay? Or you could spread it out among the group, or you could give the whole $100 to one person. It's really up to the first-level supervisor. So that's been a good program. And then the other program we do is Employee of the Month. We still do an Employee of the Month, and they're nominated by their peers. And then it's moved up, and then the first-level supervisors and a cross-section of group evaluate that. So those are some of the things that we do at X-Rate. They're fairly basic, pretty simple, but it's just really a matter of focusing on it and saying, hey, you want to celebrate. Let's do something.
Next is Valerie Hughes, Manager of Human Resources at Sussman Incorporated. Valerie's held this position for 15 years. She's been in purchasing and production scheduling for 7 years prior to moving to Human Resources. She's also the past president of the Human Resources Group, a local chapter of the Society for Human Resource Management, and is a certified senior professional in human resources. And Valerie, I think, has got a PowerPoint.
It was removed. I can do it. It's in the briefcase. I can do without it. Yeah, I'll be okay.
She's a professional.
I did put some booklets out on the table. Hopefully you're able to pick that up, and I do have a copy of my presentation in there to go through that. But SUSPA Incorporated is a small manufacturing firm here in Grand Rapids. We've been here for 33 years. And at our peak, about 7 or 8 years ago, we had 250 employees. Now we have 172, and we're lean like so many other manufacturers here. But we have a program I chose to talk about today, our Employee Suggestion Program, and a lot of organizations have them. Ours has been in effect since 1993, and about every 2 years, enhancements or changes occur to it. But we started our Employee Suggestion Program for communication between employees and management and employees and their supervisors as to what needs to change in the area, to get employee input about their jobs, to foster better understanding of why things are done from one department to the next, and to improve the quality of work life for our employees, because if they're happy to come to work, it's going to be a much better environment than if they are unhappy and don't really want to be there. I put cost savings on the bottom of that list, although other members of management disagree, and it goes up on the top of their list. But cost savings, the Employee Suggestion Program costs us to do it. We give monetary rewards, but I have some information for you to show how valuable that has been to us, and it's such a very small percentage of what we get back. The goals of our program, of course, are to save money, have improvements in productivity. One of the earlier suggestions that we had actually doubled the production capacity on our bottleneck area in our company, and that person got a $25 reward for that. And it enabled us to discontinue third shift and accept a lot of additional orders from customers. It's reduced our injury and incident rate because we have some rewards for safety suggestions. Quality improvements, preventative maintenance, so we've reduced downtime by suggestions from employees. Better internal communication between departments so they're not fighting against each other, and recognizing the employees for the contributions that they make. And so far this year in 2007, we have savings of just under $250,000. That came from 315 ideas suggested from employees, and we have paid out $5,600 for those suggestions. So $5,600 sounds like a lot of money if there's not money in the budget for that, but when you look at the savings that have occurred, it's tremendous. One of the problems that we have with our program, we've implemented 315 suggestions, and it's the end of September right now. We still have 189 for this year that are pending. Getting them off someone's desk to make a decision is difficult. When we first started our program, it was a part-time job from myself and the manager of manufacturing to try and deal with all the suggestions, and that didn't work very well because there wasn't time, and once every 3 months or so you actually worked on it. We have one individual, it is her job to manage this program. She also does other programs for us, our 5S housekeeping program. She manages the safety committee and a number of other things. But she's quickly working down that list. By the end of the year, there has to be a resolution for each suggestion, and the faster that they get turned over, the more suggestions employees turn in. Since 1993, when we started this program, we've saved $4.8 million on suggestions from our employees. We've had over 10,000 suggestions submitted, and we've implemented 7,300 of those. So there are a number of them that get turned down, and sometimes that's disheartening to folks, but the person that coordinates our program for us does a very good job of getting back with them and helping them figure out a different way to accomplish it or come up with another suggestion. In addition to just paying out those suggestions, we bring our employee suggestion program into a lot of other places. We make these awards at our monthly employee meetings, so they're handed out to individuals by management. the number of suggestions that employees turn in and are implemented is a part of a performance evaluation. So we're looking for at least 3 suggestions per employee per year. The top suggesters are recognized at the end of the year for additional money. Again, not huge dollar amounts, but $1,000 for the top suggester, $600 for second place, down to $100 for the person in 6th place. And the number and the value of the suggestions are factors in our annual profit sharing program. So quality suggestions from all the employees go throughout the organization and are pulled in for a number of different reasons. A sheet is posted every month with all the suggestions that have been implemented. The top suggesters are posted each month. Suggestions are returned to the supervisors so that they can thank the employees for their suggestions personally within their department meetings, so it's in front of their peers. And every place that we can recognize people that are making suggestions for the company, we do so. So that's one of the ways that we recognize our employees. In addition, things like our safety committee members, everybody has a movie pass, and if they see somebody doing something safely, they can pass it out and thank them. And we recognize those people again in our monthly meeting. And thank you cards that are passed out to individuals, along with safety and housekeeping programs throughout. So I just wanted to share this particular program. I have put additional information in the packets about how our reward structure is set up and our suggestion form that employees turn in. They can't just mention a problem. They have to actually come up with some type of a suggestion. And if you'd like additional information, I'd be very happy to share that. So, thank you.
That's great, Valerie. 1993, that's a long time.
It's a long
It's
time.
a lot of hard work from my experience. Next is Steve Birkin, sales manager at H&L Advantage. He has over 30 years of manufacturing experience in a variety of industries. H&L Advantage's headline on its website is Plastic Injection Molding and Lean Manufacturing. Thus, Steve has extensive experience in lean manufacturing principles, and of course, now we can talk about recognition in that environment. So, Steve?
He said over 30 years of manufacturing. Obviously, I started when I was 12. Like Kurt, my hair is a little different color now. We're getting smaller in size as you go down the panel here. H&L Advantage is a family-owned company, and we run 3 shifts, but we've only got about 70 people total in the factory. We start through a temporary service when we get new employees in there. And as Wynn said, when you're getting into the lean manufacturing principles, if you don't have everybody buy into this thing, it doesn't work. So when we looked at our employee turnover rate, we were losing 6 or 7 different employees every month. And you'd have to go back in and you'd have to get somebody else and bring them in again. And we tried to put a dollar figure on what was involved with just bringing somebody in and getting them ready to work. And by the time we had the paperwork signed up and you train them on all the different operations that go on in the factory, because everybody's cross-trained, you know, we had somewhere around $1,200 worth of time and effort into this person to make them a viable employee. Now, you lose 5 or 6 or 7 on a turnover rate every month. At the end of the year, you got a lot of money there. And in a small company that only does about $10 million in sales, that's a lot of money that's just gone, all right? So we tried to identify why they were leaving. So when they left, some of them don't just leave and don't come back. Or when they left, why are you leaving? Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to do around here. You know, I'm confused. And nobody seems to tell me what's going on. So, you know, I don't like it. I'm leaving. All right, how do we combat that? You know, we're in the middle of this lean manufacturing drive. We're getting better. We're getting leaner. But like anybody else that ever makes anything, and everybody on this panel and all of you out there will agree, you can have the best sales guy in the world and the best engineering guy in the world and the best administrator in the world, but if you don't have good people making stuff, nothing else happens, and nothing else matters. So how do you keep them? We all got together and we said, we're going to make a short video of what H&L Advantage is about. We're going to show you what the factory does, the kind of products we make. We're going to do some lean manufacturing buzzwords, and we're going to give that to the temporary service. So when you pick people that are going to come to try to work at H&L, we want you to show them this thing first, so that when they come in here, they know what to expect. There's still a learning curve. They got to learn what we do, hands-on, and all the rest of those things. But when you walk into this factory, you've got a pretty good idea of what we do, what we're about, what we make. And that has helped substantially. It really has. You kind of pre-screen people, you know, rather than, oh, I'm going to go work at this factory. What do they do? I don't know. Now they can actually choose ahead of time, does that look like a good fit for me or not? All right? So that was one thing that we did that was really good. There was another thing, and it was mentioned up here in Kurt's video. There's really nothing as nice as personal recognition. People don't necessarily want, you know, a big party or a big raise or all the rest of that stuff. I'm not saying they don't. But if you just go up to them and you say, you know, Valerie, that was a really good job you did the other day. Thanks for staying that extra hour. I really needed to get that shipment out. Thanks a lot, okay? I mean, the look on people's faces, that personal recognition. I know I like it when people tell me that. And just to go up to one of them and say that, you know, or a group of them together. Hey, guys, you know, in the work cell, nice job yesterday. We got that shipment out. Customer ordered parts they didn't know they needed, but we got them anyway. And we have, during the lean manufacturing training sessions, there are cleaning schedules that are in the plant. The place is cleaner, it's brighter, it's more well organized. Everybody seems happier out there. Our retention rate now has gone right through the roof. I mean, if we lose an employee in a month now, even a temporary one, if it's by their choice, you really get upset about it. What happened? What did we do wrong? We talk about it. You say, you know, Bill left. Why did he leave? Well, he didn't like the place. Well, did we not share enough with him or what? And talk about it and help improve that. And that's done wonders for us. It really has. You know, you get somebody that's really good at doing all the things that we do there, you want to keep them around. It's great stuff. It really is. I'm getting us back on schedule here. and like Valerie, if you want to talk more about it, just let me know.
That's great. Thanks, Steve. Next is Bruce McClenathan. He's senior partner with Quantum Services, although in conversation with him, he's had some lots of other experiences. He had a long career at Steelcase, where he served in roles that varied from VP of Human Resource, VP of Manufacturing, and Director at Steelcase University. He's currently a leader in lean manufacturing consultants, serving such companies as General Motors, TrimQuest, Extruded Metals, and Metropolitan Hospital. So, Bruce?
Well, first of all, let me apologize. I've lost my voice a little bit this morning, so I'll talk as loud as I can. Unlike Kurt and Steve, who worry about gray hair, I have my own worries. Okay. Tony, Valerie both brought up a lot of neat things that they're doing, and I just jotted a couple down that I'd heard that I thought I'd add to your list. I know one of the things I did in a plant is bought a popcorn wagon, and whenever anybody or any area did a really good job, we'd wheel the popcorn wagon out, pop popcorn out there, and pass popcorn out. Now, I know all of you love to go to the movie theater and smell popcorn. Well, I'm sure your plant employees love that smell of popcorn, too. And it was really a neat thing to do, and people really enjoyed that. Another thing that I've done, and I know other people have done, get in touch with your local high school music director. Bring the band in. March them down the aisles. I mean, you know, it's really different, but you'd be surprised what it can do for morale for people. Have celebration parties. Tie it in with United Way, whatever you want to do. Have a dunk tank with the management people in the dunk tank. You know, there's nothing better they love than to come out there and knock the old man off the shelf or whatever it might be. Really good for them. And I know down in Toyota, talking about idea plans, Valerie, one of the neat things that they do down at Toyota Georgetown is every idea that a person goes into, they get a little raffle ticket. And if you put in 100 ideas, you get 100 raffle tickets. Those raffle tickets go into a pot, and we turn around and they draw them every 6 months. And, boy, excuse me, but every 6 months they give out Camrys. Isn't that nice?
Wow.
You know, now it's Toyota and everything else, but it's kind of a, I don't know what your company's got to give, but point of the idea is it's a pretty darn good idea. So a couple of things. One of the things when I go in and I'm doing lean, the first thing that management has to agree to is they're not there to get rid of people. Okay? You don't put lean in to get rid of people. It's a totally wrong idea. Are you going to free up people? You bet you are. But what you're hoping to do is you're going to improve your revenue. You're going to be a better company. You're going to get things out faster. You're going to accommodate your supervisors a lot better. You're going to accommodate your customers a lot better. Everybody's going to profit, so hopefully you're going to grow your company. So I don't want to see people saying, I want to put lean in just strictly to get rid of people. Another thing is I want their total commitment to support and involvement. Support doesn't mean lip service, okay? Management's really good at giving lip service to stuff. I want management that's going to really commit. I'm going to want them to be at their meetings. I'm going to want them to support presentations. I'm going to want them to be very... Thanks, Linda. Excuse me.
It's really beer.
I don't know where she'd come up with vodka, but that was good. But I really want them to get in there and give it visible support, not just lip service. What we do is a lot of times you think of recognition as giving things to people, and sometimes, just giving them the things that they're really looking for. You see all kinds of different surveys taken of what do you want, and so many of your employees, all they want to do is be a part of their job. They want to contribute. They want to be able to change. And so we try to run a lean thing that allows them to do that. First of all, we don't let any supervisors on lean teams with employees. Because I can tell you right now, when a team is out there doing a lean project, they come up with an idea. The first thing they do is they do this. They look and see what the supervisor's going to say. And it gets them in trouble. So I don't want... The worst team I ever had, I had 5 vice presidents on it at Metro Hospital. And every one of them was trying to decide who was the highest vice president in the organization. And, it's one person, one vote. So, and they did really well. They came up with really good results. But the team comes up with names. Some of the names, I'll never forget, the first team that we had 6 women and 1 man on it at Metro. It was in the phlebotomy area. And they came up with a team name called TME. And I'll tell you what, for the life of me, I didn't know what TME meant. What it meant was too much estrogen. And these were the 6 women that come up with the name of the poor guy that was on the team. But they had a lot of fun with that. They enjoyed that. It was, that's different work. It isn't the work that you normally do. It's having some fun, even with just the name of the team. Then another team came up with a team, Pray Lean, P-R-A-Y, lean. And they did something I thought was kind of cute. When they got to presentation time, they brought in Pray Lean ice cream. Things that they're doing to almost reward themselves and give themselves their own recognition, something that the company didn't even have to do. I'm a big believer, that as you move along in a project, you got to encourage the people. And that can be the consultant's job, it can be anybody's job. But you got to keep encouraging. You got, good job, way to go. Boy, that looks good. That looks like a great idea. And the other thing is, guess what? There's going to be some failures. Have they ever heard of celebrating failures? Celebrate failures, because you learn from failures. So my point is, failures are not a bad thing. Failures are a good thing. And I know Norman Schwarzkopf said, never walk by a mistake. That's what it's all about, finding errors, finding mistakes, and fixing them right away. And, excuse me. And the thing that I also said about management, I want management stopping in while they're working on projects. I want them to come in and say, hey, how's it going? I want them to get the feel back from the employees. do you know how an employee feels when the CEO or the president comes out from his office just for a few minutes to see how you're doing on a lean project? It speaks volumes. It says, lean is important. You're important. What you're doing is important. So I think that is one of the real big keys. And one of the things I learned at Pella Windows. At Pella Windows, they have presentations every single Thursday from 2 to 4. And whoever wants to can go to those presentations. The key is people are doing some great things, and they're sharing them with other people. And you'd be surprised how often somebody say, gee, they did that in my department. I could do that in our department. And so now you're starting to spread the wealth of a lot of really good ideas. So getting out there and making that happen. Plus, we make everybody a part of the presentation. Now, you know one of the greatest fears is public speaking. In fact, it is the greatest fear, even more fear of public speaking than of death. So it's amazing when these people that aren't normally into public speaking, getting them up there and just saying a few words about something they really know about and encouraging them, and then all of the employees that are there, that's a big thing to people. So I'm really into the, I love all of the, well, Linda Joy knows we used to work together. I love the parties. I love the dinners. I love all that kind of stuff. I think that's all important. But I think in lean, the greatest thing you give to the employee is the ability to contribute and change things in their own area. And it's not very often we do that. It's usually management telling you what you're going to do. So being able to turn around and say, well, gee, I'd like to try to do this. People don't come to work to fail. They just don't. And they want to be successful. You give them some of the lean tools in that, and you help them be successful. But the point is they feel they're being successful. They're doing something. And guess what? If the new policy that they come, and we work on a 3-day basis, teach and implement within 3 days. Okay, so you got something new there in 3 days. And we get the 3 days because we tell them perfect is the enemy of best. And perfect is the enemy of best. Everyone always wants perfect. I've been telling my wife for years I'm perfect. For years she's telling me I'm not, okay? Now the point is, no one's perfect. Imperfect is different to everybody. So work for best. Work for making things better. Don't work for making them perfect. Because in most companies, when you work to make them perfect, that's why it takes so long to get a project done. Because things change as you move along. And when they make these presentations and they get this satisfaction that they've really done something new and different, and let's say it works out badly. Let's just say it works out badly. You can always go back to the old way. But I'll tell you what, a group of people that have decided how a process should be and work at it, even if it's bad, they're going to try to make it work. Okay? And they don't have that excuse, well, management told me to do it. They've done it themselves. So recognition comes in many ways, but I think some of the recognition that we sometimes forget about is that, and I think you said it's that personal recognition that people get. That just, I did a good job, I've done something different, I'm helping the company. And that's what it's all about as far as I'm concerned. And I'm sorry about the voice, gang, but as I say, you can tell I've got the passion for it. I really believe in it, and I'll tell you, it does work. Metro trained over 400 people in lean in less than 10 months. They put in over 88 different projects. In addition to the 88 projects, they had probably about another 50 or so 5S projects. And, of course, they were going through a massive move this week. And my big thing on lean is you don't want to move garbage. So, you need some 5S projects to get that happening. And they've had, I can't tell you, they wouldn't allow me to share with you the dollars involved, but I'll tell you, I wish I'd have worked on a 10% commission instead of a flat rate. So thank you very much.
Thanks,
and I appreciate your attention.
Last is Beth Kelly, who's Managing Director of Crandall Partners. She's an organizational consultant of 23 years' experience. She focuses on human resources practice and programs that attract and retain talented employees to an organization. She is SPHR certified. I'm not sure what that means, but I think that's very good. Beth has worked in West Michigan for her entire career, serving such companies as Cascade Engineering, D&W Food Center, Spectrum Health, Magna Donnelly, and The Right Place. So, Beth?
Thanks, Wynn. I'll bring this over here a little bit. Thanks. I guess I'm batting cleanup today, so I hope that I can give you some perspective on recognition programs and in a broad manner. You know, the question really is recognition, is reward important? And in order to talk about this, I got to take you back to your Psychology 101 class in college where you talked about operant conditioning. And we learned about the B.F. Skinner experiments with the rats, where he would put them in the maze, and if you gave the rat cheese at the end of the maze, well, the rat learned the route around the maze pretty doggone well. And of course, if you gave the rat a shock at the end of the maze, well, he didn't come back around very often. So, smart rat. But one of the things that I always thought was very interesting is if you took away any of the cheese after, you know, giving them the cheese in the first place, they wouldn't do the route again. If there was no reward, if there was no acknowledgement at all, that oftentimes had almost the same impact as a negative reward at the end. So fast forward, you know, you have to say, okay, that's a rat. We're human beings. We're thinking. We have some intrinsic motivation. Does that apply to us as well? Well, there's a group called the Gallup Group. You've probably heard of them, the Gallup polls. And in the last 20 years or so, they've moved their emphasis into measuring employee engagement and really getting a sense of how people are engaged in their businesses. And they've actually got it down to 12 questions. 12 questions that you can ask an organization or employees in an organization to get a sense of how well they're engaged. Now, that's important to the organization because there's a direct correlation between employee engagement and things like customer loyalty, sales and profit margins, and operating performance. So those things are directly related to high employee engagement. If your folks are highly engaged in your business, you are going to perform better than your counterparts in customer loyalty, sales, and profitability. Question number 4 on the survey. Question number 4 is, in the last 7 days, I have received recognition or praise for doing good work. Now, this question is significant for a couple reasons. First of all, it specifically addresses the issue of recognition or praise. Second of all, if you look at the other 11 questions in the survey, not one of them has a time parameter on it, except for this one. And so it says not only is recognition and praise important, but it's also important that you get it on a regular basis, at least once a week. So it appears that we aren't all that much different than the rats. We need to hear positive things for our good efforts. We need to hear that things are going well and that we are performing to the expectations of the business and getting some recognition for that. Now, looking at this in context of lean, those of you who are working in lean saying, well, you know, we're trying to cut cost out of the organization, recognition costs. Well, as you've heard from the rest of the panelists, it really doesn't cost that much. And when you're talking about personal praise and giving folks specific information, it's about their performance. There's really very little cost, and the yield is quite significant. Certainly Val's numbers are extraordinary, but that's not as unique as you might think it is. In fact, the American Compensation Association, now called the World at Work Association, measured this, and they said that non-cash reward programs achieve 3 times the return on investment that cash reward programs do. 3 times. Now, of course, that makes sense because non-cash reward programs typically are less expensive, but the yield that you can get is very significant to an organization. So you've heard some great stories here today about some specific examples of recognition and acknowledgement that folks give. The themes that I heard really go around 3 different elements. First of all, that it's personal. It's geared specifically to the person. In a lot of cases, it's public. It's celebrated with a group of people, and it's shared. And third, it's prompt. It comes right away. And according to the folks at Gallup, it's got to come at least once a week if you're going to make a good impact. But it is one of the easiest things that you can do as managers. It's one of the highest yield things that you can do as managers. In a lean environment where you're trying to change the way people perform by rewarding the behavior that yields the results, the change that you want, you can have dramatic impact. You can just ask the rats, I guess. So, thanks very much.
That's great. Thanks, Beth. Well, we've got some, yeah, you can give everybody a... Well, I am sure there's some questions that somebody would have for any one of the panelists, so I'll open it up. Does anybody have any specific things?
I have one for Valerie. It's probably more of a clarification than a question. Am I correct that in your system, the rewards are not simply based on percentage of savings, that there are some suggestions that are just darn good, maybe we can't quantify them, and people deserve to be recognized? Am I correct?
You're correct. They're not based on a percentage of savings. When we first set up the program, we talked to other organizations that were doing them. One organization that did a percentage of savings didn't reward until at least a year after to verify the savings, and that took too long. So we set up a particular schedule that I've included that says for this type of savings, if it saves over $100, less than $500, it's a $25 reward. Over $500 savings in a year, it's a $50 reward. We have some $5 suggestions that are for comfort or utility, a couple different levels of safety, and then now we're ISO 14001 certified for environmental, and so we've added some environmental items onto our suggestion program to reward people for those.
Good question. Yeah.
Steve, as you say you use temporary services to bring in new employees.
Right.
And I suspect after 60 to 90 days, then if they stay and become permanent.
Thank you.
Do you do anything special to recognize that movement from being a temp to a regular employee? Because that sometimes is a rough thing, or sometimes even having the temps as a group are different from the regular permanent employees, and I just wondered how you deal with that.
There's an announcement.
The question was,
And just because I know we're taping this, and I want to be sure that when people tune into GRCC TV, that they know what the question was. The question basically is, when you transfer somebody from a temporary to a full-time employee, is there anything special that's being done?
There are plant meetings every day. Between shifts, within shifts, the plant manager goes out, and one of the things that he makes sure to tell everybody is that, all right, John has completed his 90 days, and he's coming on as a full-time employee. And I've heard applause before when that happens, And it's, sometimes it's trial by fire out there. The regulars will test those temps a little bit to see, you going to make it? You got what it takes to stay here? But there is, like I say, John is coming with us full-time now, and, yay. And of course, there's always the booze in a jesting type of way, But, yeah, they let everybody know. There are recognition things on the board, Human Resources every month says, all right, these are the birthdays of the people this month, and, hey, John's a new employee, but Bill's got 12 years here, so as of a certain day, go congratulate him and tell him thanks a lot, We found that the more information we can communicate to the employees, regardless of what it is, the better off it is. One thing I wanted to mention earlier, and I didn't, is I've made it a personal challenge to myself that when we have new customer or a customer group coming in, the previous tours, we'll call them, the employees would kind of look at like, well, who are these people, all right? Now I make an announcement before the customer or the tour group is coming in, hey, next Friday afternoon, we got a group coming in from XYZ company, and they're interested in what we're doing, and maybe we'll get an opportunity to quote business. The change is remarkable. I'm walking people through the plant, and the employees are smiling, hi, how are you? That kind of thing, just because they know why they're there and what they're doing. And again, the more you can share with these people, the more it makes them feel like Bruce was saying, like they own part of what's going on, they're involved. And that employee involvement, I'll tell you what, that just is magic stuff. It really is. We've had people just turn 180 degrees. Quiet, reserved people, all of a sudden they're out there advocates. I call one of them Arlene Frankenstein. She's our lean champion now, man. I'll tell you what, if you don't do it right, she's right on you. That doesn't go there. Come on. So.
Any other? I've got a couple. Tony, you talked about flexible work schedules, and how does that work with the work that needs to be done? Because you are a manufacturer.
A good question. We are a cell manufacturer, okay? So we have cells compared to when I first went to X-Ray. It was more of assembly line thing. So we also have a pay-for-knowledge system as well, like many people do. But because of the cell manufacturing, they're not, a person builds an instrument from start to finish. So they're really not dependent upon another person, actually. So that gives us the flexibility to do that. And we don't have 3 shifts, and we have just a group on second shift, but it's small. So that enables us to be able to do that.
Anybody else? Questions? I have one more for Valerie. Would you talk just a little bit more about one of the problems with suggestions is if you don't give an award, how do you deal with the the person who's getting quote rejected unquote in terms of their idea?
That's a very difficult issue for us, and we have some people that say I'm not going to participate because I turned in 3 suggestions and I was turned down. So we have a fabulous individual who's our manufacturing coordinator running the program, and she's only been doing it a year, and she is absolutely committed to getting 1 implemented suggestion per employee per year. So she is out there if a suggestion gets turned down and the individual that turned it down is not as interactive as she would like. She is out there to help that person figure out how they can accomplish the same thing but within those constraints. So it takes some extra effort to go out and encourage that person to do so. And if a suggestion comes to me, and Human Resource kind of gets the ones that don't fit anywhere else, and some very unusual suggestions that come through, that maybe don't work because then they would be a problem on second shift. So we can't just do it for 1 shift to be consistent. But I'll go out and talk with that person, and we'll figure out a way to accomplish what they're trying to do that we're going to be able to work through. So sometimes instead of actually turning one down, we end up rewriting the suggestion and having it accomplish what they wanted to, at least mostly. But that is a big challenge. The 189 outstanding suggestions that we have right now are terrible. Yeah. And some people aren't as good at getting them back, and others get them off their desk immediately. So our coordinator meets every other month with whoever has outstanding suggestions now to help push that through, and that's improved things quite a bit. But that's one of our bigger challenges.
I would, if I could add, maybe one of the suggestions would be what Bruce had. For those individuals that suggestion doesn't get implemented, go into a pool, and they could get the raffle ticket. So
that's
at
a
the
great
end,
idea.
you could pull a raffle ticket out, and at least somebody
simply
is,
for participation.
So
that's a great idea.
That's a great thought. Any other questions? One thing that I remembered, and way back when I took a course at the Employers Association, as people were talking, they were talking about absenteeism, and of course that's a huge issue in a factory environment like ours or in anybody. And they said the most important thing you can do on that issue is after the person's come back to work the next day is to go to them and say, boy, I'm glad you're here. How are you doing? Are you feeling better now? To acknowledge that you really like that person being there. And it's so basic, but we all don't do that. And that it's very, very important. And it gets back to what the whole panel has been talking about. Yeah, you have a question?
Just a quick question for Valerie. I see at the bottom of the suggestion form, there's boxes, Meyer, Walmart, charity, and hospitals. Maybe you spoke to this, but I assume that people can allocate where they want their dollars or credits going.
They do. Our suggestions run from a $5 reward to a $50 reward. And on the bottom of the suggestion form, they tell us how they want to receive that. Meyer or Walmart would be the gift cards that we would provide. Santa Claus Girls is a charity that our organization supports through empty pop bottles, and then the company matches it. So they can have their amount of money put into the Santa Claus Girls or another charity that they designate. We have a number of employees that feel it's a part of their job to make improvements and suggestions and don't necessarily want a separate reward for that. And that came from a suggestion for an employee to add those other options to our reward list.
What proportion of employees elect that option? Would you say?
Not very many, maybe 5%, just a few.
Any other questions? If not, according to the schedule, everybody's supposed to fill out their evaluation. If you want to know when the times are that this might be broadcast, give us your email, and we'll get that to you. And Christy Graham over here from Michigan Works will take care of that for you. I want to especially thank Linda Joy from Disability Advocates. Linda is really the brains behind this panel, and she's the one that knew all these wonderful people to bring them to you, and and by taping this, we obviously share this with a lot of other people. And having been on a couple of these, it is always amazing, panelists, when somebody comes up to you, I saw you on TV, and so you'll know that people do cruise around. So stop at that community college station when you're on there. With that, our next session, we're every fourth Friday, and we got one coming up on health and wellness. We're not totally sure about the topic for October, but we're going to quickly figure exactly out what that is. But and if we don't have you on our email list, give us your email, give it to Christy so we can make sure that you know about these. And when it's a topic that fits, we're welcome to have it. We always get out by 9. And thank you all for attending. And thank you to the panelists. Fabulous.